Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our show. And as promised, we are back with the relationship and love series. And today I wanted to talk a little bit about relationships. I hope you guys were able to watch the 3-part video where we talked about the dangers of finding love in fear or loving in fear. It was really a blessing to have Mom April come in and actually share her testimony with us all. Oh my God. And a testimony it is. She's still here to be able to tell it, but she's also still here to be able to actually find love, true love. And that's the same goal we have for all of you. Today's topic is relationships. What is a relationship? If we were to look up the meaning of relationships, it would say a state of being, or the way two people connect, or the way two people treat one another, or how they behave with one another. So how we behave with one another, that's what the dictionary says a relationship is. But I like to say a relationship is something so much bigger. My definition is the uniting of two souls in love and honor for the purpose of fulfilling their purpose within the world. The reason I changed my definition of what I thought relationship was based on experience. When you go through experiences, it teaches you what relationship is and it teaches you what it is not. But most important, it teaches you what love is and what love is not. Love is the key component in every relationship, and without love, there is no relationship. Love is what allows us to honor one another. Love is what allows us to respect one another. Love is what establishes the union and trust with one another. So it's important. Key factor is love. So I have everything here. I want to kind of stick to the points and give you some quick key points on understanding relationship and how we should be moving forward. So the first point I wanted to make is that love is not a trend and it should not be treated as one. Or let me rephrase that. Relationship is not a trend and it shouldn't be treated as one. And what do I mean by that? You know how sometimes you're out and about and you see something and that's something, or you experience something and you're in a situation or a community of people and everybody's doing something. Prime example is I had a conversation with my son not too long ago who literally just turned 11. And he told me he wanted a girlfriend. And of course, I'm like, what? You don't even know what a girlfriend is. Like at this age, like, what are you gonna do with a girlfriend, right? Obviously, I wasn't with it. But I asked him a few questions. The main question I asked him is why, okay? And I think as an adults, we're just an extension of the children that we once were. And to my surprise, he told me he wanted a girlfriend because everyone else had one. So when I say trend, I thought about that like, wow, this little guy wants to change his entire situation and commit himself and connect to another human being in a way that he sees because he feels everybody else has done it. Because everybody else has one, so I want one. Well, how many times as adults are we that same way, right? I know for me, growing up in church, it was something, everybody's dating or everybody's doing this or everybody's doing that. Particularly when it came to being married, being that I was already a mother of two, I didn't necessarily always look at marriage as being the answer, but based on the socialization whereby I had connected myself to, it was definitely the trend and what people were doing. So I need to stress that to you. Choosing a relationship should never be based on trends. It should never be based on what's popular at the time, but it should be purposeful and intentional. The other thing I wanted to bring out, particularly to church women, is to understand that key thing with relationship is relationship. God will not choose your mate for you. However, the mate that is meant for you, God will validate and equip that mate. And then you're probably like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is it's really simple. If you check the Bible and you go back to Genesis and you look into the situation of Adam and Eve, Adam was put to sleep, and as he was asleep, first God established that man should not be alone. And that was after everything was already basically perfect. Everything had been created, and he had given Adam dominion and told him, specifically what his plan was for his life. In that, in observation, he realized, though I created this creation and Adam is good, there is something missing here, and the element of him not being alone is now a problem. Man should not be alone. It's in your Bible. Go check it. Go read it, right? So he put him to sleep, and when he put him to sleep, he went within him, removed the rib, according to the word. In that, he then created what we now know to be woman, right? Woman, which is a man with a womb. Okay, in that essence of that, everything that Adam actually needed to fulfill the purpose was already included in Eve. You never heard any stories about God going back and saying, I need to put this in her, I need to put that in her, this, that, and the other. Eve was the secret weapon to Adam's fulfilling of his purpose. So in understanding that the woman is the secret weapon in every man fulfilling his purpose, we definitely need to make sure that we are purposeful and intentional when it comes down to finding out who are we meant, right, to fulfill purpose with. And that's kind of how we should approach relationship. Relationships shouldn't be a casual thing, particularly when you're talking about getting married and you're talking about evolving, which we're going to get into that too, because every relationship that you have, just because it's an opposite sex, does not mean it's meant for you actually to dwell in a eternal relationship with that person. Tyler Perry once said it, the saying, never place a temporary person in a permanent position. And so I second that. Never choose from where you are for where you're going. The person that aligns in your life should not be based on your anguish. It shouldn't be based on your anxiety or your fear or any external thing that's kind of making you feel like you got to hurry up and do it. Because the thing is, it's purposeful and intentional. And it's ultimately to fulfill the purpose that you came here to this earth to do. With that being said, if you get out of place or get ahead of yourself and you choose the wrong person and you choose to ignite this fire with this person, what you could actually be doing is either delaying, right? Or actually totally taking yourself off of your course to fulfilling the purpose for your life. So I want to make sure you get that point. Okay, the other thing is understand that there was no ceremony with Adam and Eve. So if you go back and you check the Bible and it talks about, and he knew her. Shortly after that, a baby was conceived. So we know what that means. Okay, so in understanding that is the seed was planted and then creation began. Taking dominion as well as being fruitful and multiply was already the command that was within, which meant God was intentional and God had a purpose, right? That was already mapped out. And together they were able to unify and have that purpose. So I brought out the point that there was no ceremony. And the reason I said that is because the danger in most relationships is that they start based on the ideal of a relationship and not necessarily what it actually takes to have a relationship. So what do I mean by that? So most people are excited about the ceremony, okay? The colors, picking out the venue, picking out where you're going on the honeymoon, picking out the new house, the dream house, the dream car, the dream everything, the 2 kids and the picket fence and a dog maybe, right? Again, that is the ideal. It's the same thing with having the ideal of being in love and being loved. Our ideals are shaped by the things that we grow up, our experiences, right? Our socialization, what you have been accustomed to seeing ultimately becomes the thing that you become accustomed to doing. So understanding that choosing a relationship, man, you cannot fall in love with the ideal of being in a relationship and jump into a relationship without making sure you understand exactly what it is. So the key thing is my points. Get grounded in yourself. The solution to not jumping in a wrong relationship starts with you getting grounded with yourself. And the first thing I say for every woman, man too, you need to make sure that you ultimately understand the purpose for your own life. Because if you don't understand the purpose for your own life, it is extremely easy to get off target, to get off focus, and also find yourself in the wrong relationship. Guess what happens when you understand what your purpose is? It creates a frequency around you. Why? Because now you're moving in a direction. Now your thoughts, right? Your process, your actions, everything you're doing is aligning with that particular purpose. And what happens is when you're in that and you're in tune with you and the spirit, you're not attracting from a place of need and loneliness and, all the different other reasons why we get married. You're not anxious, as the word says, be anxious for nothing. You're not anxious about that because you're steadfast in moving in the direction that you're going. The one good thing about purpose is such a fulfilling thing. It's full of joy. It's full of love. It's full of just evolution. You're constantly evolving in purpose. There's a new adventure every day when you're walking in purpose, and there's a new form of fellowship that you find between you and the Lord, where you're consulting God, for information. You're consulting God for direction on how to do it. If you're getting discouraged, you're consulting God on, Lord, hey, I don't see this or I don't see that. So it's developing you along the way. And it's kind of ironic that those same skills that are being developed within that relationship with you, learning what your purpose is and walking that purpose out as a co-creator with the Holy Spirit, man, it actually sets you up. So now you're also equipped to understand what that means now when that mate comes into your life, that right mate. Right? That purposeful mate, that intentional mate that was there, that's there, that will find you, right? When you're on your course to fulfilling your purpose. Okay. So I don't want to beat the dead horse. So let me move on from that. So once you get grounded within yourself, you can ask yourself certain questions, and I have two. One would be, who am I meant to reach? Okay, ask yourself that within your purpose. Who am I meant to reach? And then declare that you are a solution waiting to happen. So guess what? You can't be a problem if you are the solution. You don't have time for problems when you're what? Being the solution. Okay? All right, moving on. I spoke a little bit about somewhat a fundamental portion of being in a relationship and how to not get into the wrong relationship. But I also want to reach out and touch on something, because sometimes we're in these relationships. Sometimes you're already in a relationship. You already made, basically the mistake. You already got married, or you're already committed. You're already having babies, whatever the case may be. So in that situation, it's key to understand that if your relationship was fundamentally found on any basis that don't deal with purpose, if it was need, if it was loneliness, right? If it was insecurities, if it was fear of never having the right man, nobody else is gonna ever love me, so I'm gonna get in this relationship, and that's what's keeping you there, you have to understand. Grace is not provision. Okay? Grace that you have is not provision of fulfillment of purpose. So you don't want to confuse the fact that you have the grace and you're not dead and life is kind of okay. You don't want to confuse that as meaning, oh, since it's okay, well, God has given me grace to be able to bear it and to be able to deal with. Don't confuse that with fulfilling purpose. Because ultimately, the promise of your life, a relationship is only one of those promises. There's so many others. And if you're so caught up spinning your wheels, as you go through negative situations, as he cheats on you, as he beats on you, as he's disrespectful to you, as you're fighting all the time, or whatever the case may be, if you're spending all of your energy there's no room, there's nothing left over for you to fulfill your purpose or even walk in your purpose, which means what's happening from you? Things are being taken from you instead of being filling you up. You want to surround yourself in situations and relationships that are actually going to give back to you. So why? It's just reciprocated and just keeps going around in a circle. You giving out, the Lord is sending something else to fill you up, and you just keep going and going and going. Meanwhile, you're evolving, you're growing, you're becoming a better person. You're operating on a whole different frequency. As I always tell you, when you're attracting, we don't attract from what we just say we want. We're actually attracting from that level, those beliefs that we have, and usually it's the lower frequency. So when you're in purpose and you're operating in purpose, you're going to attract a total different type of person, and you're automatically going to be able to understand, hey, this ain't it, because it's deterring me or it's detouring me to go a different way, and that's not the way that I'm supposed to go. And I'm already vetted in this thing, and I appreciate what I have, and I know that I'm going in the right direction. So I can't have somebody coming in my life now saying, oh, but that's not what I want. That's not what I want. We're going to do it this way, and we're going to do it that way. And where do these principles come from? Well, the principles come from because the man is the head. And as the head, he is the leader. He should be the provider. He should also be the protector, right? He should also be the visionary. However, if a man is coming into your life and you're in purpose and he's not in alignment at any point with supporting that purpose, because it's a dual support system, he should be supporting your purpose just like you are supporting his purpose, and you guys should be united together and fulfilling a ultimate purpose. That's how it works, right? So if someone is coming into your life, that's just an automatic red flag that's getting you off. You so distracted. You can't do the things that you know you're supposed to do. You're not showing up, you know what I'm saying, as the full capacity of you because you're so busy trying to please them. If you're starting to feel insecure or uncomfortable and you're questioning who you are, when a person comes into your life and you begin to question who you are and you start immediately starting to think all the things that you need to change in order for this person to be happy or in order to get you to the altar, that's not the person that God has for you, because God is very strategic, intentional in who and what he sends into our lives. Okay. So again, if you're in a negative or unfruitful relationship, the only solution in that is to get back to yourself. Get back to yourself, find out what your purpose is, and start there. Start there. And when you start there, trust me, you'll be filled up. Next, I wanted to talk a little bit about clearing out the lies that we tell ourselves. This is in all forms of settling, but particularly in relationships. One is how we ignore our intuition when our intuition is telling us, hey, something ain't right or things are going wrong and this is that, and we just keep saying, I prayed about it and God is going to make it better. God, it's going to all work out, you know. This is just the Lord, you know, God is just teaching me this, or God is just teaching me that, or God, we got to stop lying to ourselves and placing blame and saying God is having us to go through certain things as they pertain to our relationship, when really all it is that we formed a codependency within the relationship because we stepped out of turn and got into something that God never ordained for our lives. And now that we're dealing with those things, we now want God to have grace and give us grace and mercy and ultimately perform a miracle to fix the thing. So we have to stop lying to ourselves, ladies, about that. We have to be, honest and factual. There's not a problem in saying that we made a mistake. If we made a mistake, we made a mistake. Hey, there's grace for that mistake. Now just get back up and get it right. The next lie we tell is we keep believing that God is using us to ultimately change the person we're in a relationship with. And again, this can span for years and years and years and years. Just, the Lord is just using me to minister. The Lord is just using me. God is going to save him. He going to get saved. Everything going to be good. Stop lying to yourself and telling yourself that. Because the reality is there's a clear cut path when it comes to relationships. You do go through problems. However, both people that are equally yoked understand our problem doesn't determine how we interact in this relationship. And ultimately, the goal is to solve the problem, address the problem from a solution base, find the solution, handle it, and move on. It's always basically to grow us up and move us forward. So if that's not what you're doing, then you're lying to yourself in that relationship. If you're telling yourself, oh, well, God is just using me. God is just using me, because it doesn't take God all day to work on a contrite heart, a heart that is willing to change. And we have to realize we are not the vessels of change for other people, only for ourselves. So again, the first position in love is yourself. And you have to love yourself enough and be brave enough to ask God to reveal the truth to me in regards to this relationship, so that I don't waste any more time. If you're not married and you're dating a person a long time, ask God to reveal the truth. You have to be brave in that, because trust me, in the long run, you'll appreciate that you took less time and you found the truth and you got back on the right course, so that you could receive what the actual blessing that's supposed to come into your life, versus dragging it out for years and years and years and years and years and years, and then dealing with all these different things that you're eventually gonna have to get delivered, more deliverance and more healing from. Okay, so I have the 3 A's, which are my takeaway tools. And my takeaway tools are: first, acknowledge, accept, and anchor. So with the acknowledgement, I want to deal with Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge God, and he will direct your path. So that acknowledgement means to make a stern decision, right? But in that, it's not just acknowledge like, Lord, I know you're here to help me, and Lord, I know. But it's from a place of when you recognize the actual quality of what it means to have God directing your decisions, what it means to have God being in place, right, to provide, clarity, to give you clear direction, the appreciation. So that acknowledgement is from a place of appreciation. Like you're saying, you know what, as my Father, I appreciate you, and I'm coming to you because I acknowledge and I recognize the quality that you bring to my life. And because you bring nothing but quality into my life, I would not dare not trust you in one of the biggest decisions that I need to make, which means who I spend my time with, who I share my resources with, who I give my body to, and so on and so on and so on. Okay, so that's the acknowledging. And then number 2 is accept. So accepting deals with Jeremiah 29:11. It says, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you and to not harm you, plans to bring you a hope and a future. You have to accept that the plans that God has for you are way better than those you think you have for yourself. When you accept that the plans that God has for you are not to bring harm to you, right? But to bring you a hope in the future. Plans to prosper and not harm you. Why wouldn't you trust, right? Or should I say, again, acknowledge the Father that's coming to do that for you? If you don't, trust me, it's going to keep bringing you a world of trouble. So let's start accepting the plans that God actually has for us, and understanding in those plans, there's hope, there's a good future, prosperity's there, and it's to help you, not harm you. Okay. Last one would be to anchor. And the principle of anchoring deals with Psalms 37:4, which says, delight thyself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. That one right there is such a beautiful thing to me, because what I realize is when I'm anchoring myself in the promises of God, particularly, I recognize again that a relationship or companionship, that's only one promise, but there's so many other promises it says to prosper me and not harm me. So that deals in so many other areas, hope and a future, which this is a provision that's always going to be there for me. And because that provision is always going to be there for me, why would I take the very thing that's just the one thing, just the one promise, and try to do it on my own? We have to anchor ourselves in understanding that, again, remember, you're chosen for purpose. And when you're delighting yourself in that purpose, which is what? Delighting yourself in God. And he will give you the desires of your heart. That in God means simply I'm under the tutelage, right? I'm under the guidance system of God. I'm under the provision of God. I'm actually operating under the knowledge of God. I'm receiving clarity from God. I'm receiving direction from God. That's a safety net for us women. We got to get there, be in there. Eve didn't have to come out of Adam as a creation, coming out to have to work and have to do and have to figure all this kind of stuff out. Why? Because that provision was already made for her. She came into a perfect space that was already perfectly made for her. And everything that she needed was already within her. So we have to understand we are enough, right? We are enough to be all that we've been called to be. We are enough to fulfill the purpose. We are enough, right? We are enough. Actually, we're more than enough. The problem is, if you're having problems, is that you're choosing, not accepting God's provision. You're choosing. And in your choosing, you're now dealing with the choices. But it's fine. Just get back on track. Acknowledge, number one, accept the provision of God. And number three, anchor yourself in the promise. Remember that you're chosen for a purpose and on purpose. Get out of your own way and allow yourself to be all that God has created you to be. I hope this helps somebody. We will be back tomorrow with some more tips and dealing with relationships. Until then, remember you win from within and have a wonderful day.